All right, let's dive into Orbital by Samantha Harvey. It takes us to the International Space Station. But it's not your typical space adventure. It's more of an intimate look at what it means to be human, set against this backdrop of the universe.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Harvey uses this setting. These characters are literally detached from Earth, and it kind of magnifies all these human struggles.
Yeah, it's like being in space makes their humanity that much more apparent.
And there's this group of 6 astronauts, each with their own unique story. You have Sean, the American. He's struggling with his faith out in the vastness of space. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, even without leaving Earth.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then there's Nell, the British meteorologist. She's captivated by Earth's weather systems, especially this powerful typhoon they observe from orbit.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating how each character represents different facets of being human. You have Chi, the Japanese astronaut. She's dealing with the loss of her mother while being millions of miles away. Really pulls at your heartstrings, doesn't it? It does. It really makes you think about how, even in these extraordinary circumstances, our connection to Earth and things like grief remains so powerful. And then you have Roman, the Russian astronaut. He's haunted by dreams of his wife and all the complexities of their relationship.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if going to space really offers an escape from our problems, or if it just ends up making them worse. Then there's Anton, the other Russian astronaut. He seems to find peace in the routine of life on the space station. He even makes a little garden for himself up there, which I think speaks volumes about how we all cope differently with these situations.
Yeah, and then there's Pietro, the Italian astronaut. He's very pragmatic. He reflects a lot on humanity's advancements and kind of wonders if our progress is truly beautiful or not.
It's like each of these characters is holding up a mirror
Mm.
to these different aspects of humanity. Okay, so before we get too deep into the characters, can we talk about how the story is told? It doesn't really follow a typical linear narrative, does it?
No, not at all. It's structured kind of like the orbits around the Earth. Each chapter is like a little vignette. It jumps between the different characters and timelines and their points of view.
So it's like you're up there in the space station, hurtling around the Earth every 90 minutes, days and nights become blurred, you're constantly in motion, but in a way, also standing still, circling the same point in space over and over.
Exactly. And I think that's what Harvey is capturing here, this warping of time. They relive memories and re-examine their lives in this completely new way. Each orbit brings new challenges, of course, but they're always circling back to earlier thoughts and emotions.
It's like this constant push and pull between the past and present,
Yeah.
all happening in this confined space millions of miles from Earth. Really intriguing.
As we go deeper into Orbital, I'm really impressed by how Harvey uses language
Right.
to paint this picture of what the astronauts are experiencing.
Oh, totally. The way she describes Earth from their perspective is amazing. I was constantly highlighting passages, just soaking in the beauty of it all.
Her prose is so evocative, all those sensory details. It really captures the vastness of space
Yeah.
and the delicate beauty of the Earth. And that profound sense of wonder, you almost feel like you're right there with them looking out the window.
Yeah. And she doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of space travel either.
Yeah.
The physical discomfort, the isolation, the constant awareness of how fragile it all is.
Exactly. That makes the novel so compelling. Because it's not just this romanticized idea of space exploration. It's a really raw and honest portrayal of what it's like to be human up there. They're grappling with fear, loneliness, doubt, the weight of their responsibilities.
You mentioned isolation. It's interesting how she contrasts that with the profound connections
Oh,
that the astronauts form with each other.
right. That's a key element. They're stuck in this confined space, cut off from everything familiar. So they become each other's lifelines, essentially. They rely on each other for support, for companionship, for a sense of shared humanity.
There's this one passage where Nell describes it so well. She says they're everything to each other for this short stretch of time, because they're all there is. It makes you think about how shared experiences, especially in these extreme situations, can forge such strong bonds.
Definitely. It really raises questions about human connection. Are we just drawn together out of circumstance, proximity, necessity? Or is there something more going on? Harvey doesn't give us the answers, but she makes us think about it.
Another thing that got me thinking was how Harvey explores the passage of time in Orbital. Time almost becomes fluid, warped by the 90-minute orbits, and the lack of day and night cycles, and the sheer speed at which they're traveling.
Right. The astronauts experience lifetimes in just months. Their perception of time is completely distorted. It makes you wonder about the psychological impact of all this. It really challenges our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
Yeah, we see this reflected in Nell's struggles to communicate with her brother back on Earth. She finds it hard to explain what she's going through and relate it to his everyday life.
Yeah, it's like they're living in totally separate realities, not just divided by physical distance, but also by completely different experiences of time. It makes you think, how can we really connect with people when our realities are so different?
There's this one line that really stood out to me. Nell writes to her brother, "There's a lot of round and round. There's a lot of contemplation of how it's possible to get nowhere very fast." I think that perfectly captures the paradox of their existence.
Yeah, it does. That paradox is at the heart of the novel. It reflects the human condition, our constant striving for progress and meaning, while feeling tethered to our past, our limitations, our mortality.
Speaking of mortality, one of the most powerful themes in Orbital is how the astronauts become so aware of life's fragility, while also being in awe of the vastness of the universe.
It's a humbling realization to confront the immensity of space, all those stars, and to see how fleeting our own existence is. Within that grand scheme,
Yeah, there's this scene where they witness the aurora australis, and Roman just whispers, "Ophijet." It means something like, wow. But that simple expression says so much about their experience, like they're constantly being confronted with beauty and wonder. That's almost impossible to put into words.
right, and yet, alongside that awe, there's this undercurrent of anxiety, the awareness that their lives could end at any moment. The crack in the Russian module is a constant reminder of that. The potential for disaster is always there.
It's like they're balancing on this nice edge between wonder and terror. Exhilarating but terrifying.
That tension is what makes Orbital so gripping. It's not just a space adventure. It's a philosophical exploration of what it means to be human in the face of the infinite.
And even though the astronauts are orbiting above it all, Harvey doesn't let us forget about the political realities on Earth.
No, she doesn't. The novel touches on international tensions, the militarization of space, the impact of human activity on the environment. It reminds us that even as we reach for the stars, we're still tied to the problems of our planet.
There's even that detail about the space station. A Russian toilet and a non-Russian toilet. It's a small thing, but it symbolizes how these political barriers persist, even in this supposedly collaborative environment.
It does. It shows how our differences and divisions often follow us wherever we go.
And then there's that conversation about the Voyager Golden Record. I thought it was kind of funny how Pietro's daughter questions the idea of progress. She brings up things like the atom bomb and the possibility of advertising in space. It reminds us of the darker side of human ingenuity.
Right, it's a crucial question. As we push the boundaries of technology and exploration, what are the ethical implications? Are we just making the same mistakes on a grander scale?
What I found interesting was that Pietro admits he doesn't have the answers. He tells his daughter he should have just said, "I don't know, my love." It's a moment of humility, recognizing that even the most experienced astronaut is still grappling with these big questions.
Yeah, it is. It shows that there's beauty in not knowing and embracing uncertainty and being open to new perspectives. Maybe that's the real essence of exploration, not just venturing into the unknown, but being willing to challenge our assumptions and confront the limits of our understanding.
I really loved how Harvey weaves these big ideas with these small, intimate moments of human connection, like when they talk about childhood candy stores or when they comfort Chi as she grieves for her mother.
Those moments are what make the novel so relatable. They show us that even in these extraordinary circumstances, it's the simple things, the human connections, that really matter.
There's something so moving about Anton crying with Chi, catching her tears in his hand. It transcends language. It speaks to the depth of their bond.
It's a powerful reminder that empathy and compassion are universal. They can bridge any distance.
And then there's Roman reaching out with his radio, connecting with a complete stranger back on Earth. It shows our need to connect, to share our experiences, to find common ground.
Right. That connection with Therese highlights the power of storytelling, how it can connect people across cultures. It's like Roman is reaching across the void, seeking solace and understanding.
I love how Therese challenges his view of space travel. She asks him if it felt like a letdown, to sleep in those uncomfortable sleeping bags. It reminds us that even the most amazing experiences can have their downsides, that reality doesn't always live up to our expectations.
It doesn't, but Roman finds beauty in the unexpected. He talks about the comfort he finds in weightlessness, how it lets him float freely. It's a reminder that even in difficult situations, there can be moments of peace, even joy.
We've talked a lot about the philosophical and emotional stuff, but I have to say, I really appreciate the structure of Orbital, the way Harvey uses the cyclical nature of orbiting to mirror the characters' internal journeys. It's brilliant.
It is. It's this dance between the physical and the psychological, the external and internal. Each orbit brings new challenges and insights, but they always circle back to earlier themes and emotions, just like the space station circles the Earth.
It really emphasizes the interconnectedness of their experiences, how the past and present, the internal and external, are always shaping each other.
Yeah, and this cyclical structure also reflects the nature of time itself. It moves in cycles, in seasons, in orbits. It reminds us that even as we strive for progress, there's this ebb and flow to life. We can't escape it.
This brings us to this really fascinating passage where Harvey talks about the cosmic calendar. She compresses the whole history of the universe into a single year, highlighting how short human existence is.
Yeah, that puts things in perspective. You realize that everything humans have ever done fits into just a few moments on this grand cosmic timeline.
I was totally captivated by her description of the universe evolving, galaxies forming, life on Earth emerging, the rise and fall of civilizations. It reminds you how everything is connected, how our existence is linked to all these cosmic events.
It makes you think about the significance of our own lives. If we're just a blip on the radar, what does it all mean? What do we leave behind?
So as we wrap up our look at Orbital, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the ending? It left me with this weird mix of hope and unease. Kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. It brings together all those big themes: connection, fragility, time, and the resilience of the human spirit.
But what really struck me was how Harvey puts those two things side by side. The astronauts are sleeping so peacefully, and meanwhile down on Earth, the typhoon is raging.
Oh, yeah, it's like the calm before the storm, literally. They have no idea what's happening down there. It shows that disconnect between their experience and the realities back on Earth.
And then there's that crack in the Russian module,
Yeah.
which we've seen getting worse and worse.
That crack, it's such a powerful symbol of the danger they're in, how easily things could go wrong.
Yeah, it's like a ticking time bomb. Adds to the suspense. And I found it really interesting that Harvey doesn't tell us what happens to them. We don't know if that crack causes a disaster, if they manage to fix it, or if they even wake up in time.
Right, it leaves you hanging. It makes you think about your own mortality, that uncertainty about the future, and just how fragile life can be.
It's not just their fate either. We're also left wondering about that Filipino family, the ones Pietro met on his honeymoon. We don't know what happened to them after the typhoon.
It reminds us that even when bad things happen, life goes on, but it leaves its mark.
While they're sleeping, each astronaut has these vivid dreams, really symbolic.
Oh yeah, those dreams are fascinating.
Roman dreams that he's giving this speech
Hmm.
about becoming an astronaut. And he made that decision while still in the womb.
It's like he's surrounded by his family in the dream. And Anton, too.
It says so much about his need for connection, like he wants to go back to a simpler time.
Yeah, that feeling of unity, it shows the sacrifices he's made to achieve his dreams and how it's created distance between him and his loved ones.
She dreams about comforting her mother as a child during a typhoon.
It's such a powerful image. All that grief and guilt she's carrying, leaving her mother behind like that. It really shows that bond between a mother and daughter.
And then there's Anton. He keeps dreaming that he's drifting through space, and he hears this violin note that seems to stretch the distance between him and Earth.
Yeah, his dream is more mysterious, but I think it suggests a longing for something more. Beyond the physical world, The music is like this connection to something bigger, a source of beauty and peace in all that emptiness.
The ending of Orbital definitely leaves you with questions,
Yeah.
but also a sense of possibility. They're still orbiting, the Earth is still turning, but something has changed.
It has, both for them and the planet.
It reinforces this idea that life is constantly changing, this cycle of growth and decay, connection and separation. But even when we're facing the unknown, we find a way to keep going.
We do. The human spirit is resilient, always searching for meaning, connection, beauty.
This deep dive into Orbital has been amazing. Samantha Harvey's novel is a masterpiece. It challenges us to think about what it means to be human, our place in the universe, and how we connect with each other.
It really is a profound book. I hope this conversation has inspired you to embrace the unknown, to question your own assumptions, and to appreciate those connections that make life meaningful.
Beautifully said. And to all our listeners, if you haven't read Orbital yet, I highly recommend it. It's a journey you won't forget. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.